Heartless killer Jake Fahri is back in prison tonight after a Sun investigation exposed how he was a violent drill rapper whose lyrics reference the murder of schoolboy Jimmy Mizen. The social media star, who performed under a balaclava as alter ego 10, was arrested by police on Thursday night and hauled straight back to jail. The sick brute also showed no remorse in a statement published online, repeating baseless claims about 16-year-old gentle giant Jimmy's death. We had earlier handed officials a dossier of evidence proving the evil yob, who's now 35, broke the conditions of his lifetime license by glorifying his crimes in tracks released on streaming platforms like YouTube and Spotify. His tunes were also promoted on BBC Radio 1 Extra, where he was hailed as an up-and-coming rap star. Met police officers handcuffed Fahri at his flat in Deptford in southeast London, and he must now serve at least another year in prison before being considered for parole by an independent board. A probation service spokesman told The Sun today, "Our thoughts are with Jimmy Mizen's family, who deserve better than to see their son's murderer shamelessly boasting about his violent crime. All offenders released on licence are subject to strict conditions. As this case shows, we will recall them to prison if they break the rules." Among the lyrics which horrified Jimmy's hurt family were, quote, "Stuck it on a man and watched him melt like Ben and Jerry's." Earlier today, peace campaigner Margaret, who spotted that Jake Fahri had filmed some of the videos for his drill rap songs inside a police-enforced exclusion zone, told us how Fahri's conditions would be a laughingstock if he hadn't been put back inside. Fahri's social media accounts posted a lengthy statement full of untruths which contradict the evidence on which he was convicted at the Old Bailey in 2009. The message was added to his Instagram and TikTok accounts after he had already been arrested, meaning it's unclear who exactly made the post. The Sun is choosing not to quote from the statement, which falsely claims the altercation in a southeast London bakery was started by Jimmy and his brother. Fahri also thanked the BBC for boosting his short-lived rap career. At the time of his conviction, top police inspector Cliff Lyons said, "Jimmy was the exact opposite of Fahri. He was a peaceful, courteous person with only the best intentions." Despite Jimmy's attempts to defuse the situation, Fahri made repeated attempts to attack him, using whatever was at hand to continue the assault until striking the fatal blow. In a direct response to Fahri's message, Margaret called his cop-out statement heartless. She added, quote, "I'd like him to show remorse and for the parole board to look into it properly. Clearly, Jake's not showing remorse." Tonight, she also called for more restrictions on violent drill music which glamorises serious offences. She told us, quote, "I think it goes without saying, anything that promotes murder, promotes knives, promotes drugs, of course it shouldn't be allowed. That's what Jake was doing. He was encouraging crime. He said he was trying to turn his life around. But how can you turn your life around when you're encouraging crime?" Margaret's charity, the Mizen Foundation, has been swarmed with an influx of donations by generous Brits since we revealed their pain over the sick verses. Viewers can donate online at www.mizenfoundation.org.
Look, said he wants to be a killer, hit him with some insight. Starts with murder trials, prosecution wearing pinstripes. Even if you bust the case, even if you slip right, ends with him coming for your neck, protect your windpipe.
I'm quite upset it's come to this. You know, it's such a shame because, as I said, I think I said before, I just presumed he'd come out of prison and just lead a quiet life. But the fact that he's been recalled is the right thing if he's broken his license. And if he couldn't go into one of those areas. So I think there was no other choice for the Ministry of Justice to do what they've done.
And you were told about this at about 9 a.m. or so this morning, I think. And were you told any more details as to why he was being recalled or what actions had led to him being recalled beyond what's already been reported?
No, that they were very good. And who I spoke to just said that Jake has now been taken back to prison because he broke his license. I don't suppose there's much more they can tell me.
No, absolutely. And we know that he's shown no remorse in the years since. These videos prove that. And of course, overnight, a statement was put out on his social media channels. Many of the details we don't want to publish. But in that statement, it's important to acknowledge there are a number of baseless, things that aren't factual, claims about your late son and about his siblings too. And I wanted to get your response to someone who, even 15 years on, shows no remorse and actually still makes the same claims that the jury at his trial saw completely through.
I haven't read the statement properly that's been put out, so there's not an awful lot I can say except for, I suppose in some ways it saddens me that he could be so heartless. Other than that, I need to come back on this one. It's, so much has happened in the last 48 hours, really, that it's an awful lot to take in. So I suppose for now I need to sit with my family and digest what's been going on and what's been said. But I suppose in some ways it's making me feel a little bit sad.
Did you hope when Jake Fahri got out that he would reform himself?
Of course. I mean, I share in schools about him coming out, and I always say to the young people that with all my heart, I pray that he's now a changed person. And he is not.
And you're going to go to a primary school today, I understand, and keep spreading that same message. And
Absolutely.
this has made you more determined.
Absolutely. The message that we give out in schools is one of forgiveness, peace, and hope, and that's not going to change. And I can't wait to go in the school this afternoon and meet all the young people. It's a primary school, and I'll be talking to year 5 and 6, and that message will be an uplifting message, encouraging those young people to go out and be our change makers.
He will have to spend at least a year in prison now. Then he can reapply for parole. What would you want to say to the parole board that in a year's time will discuss that application he's inevitably going to make after serving the minimum amount of time? What would you want to say to them when they come to consider his claim?
I suppose after the statement that's been put out today, he clearly isn't sorry for his actions. And I always thought that when you went to parole, you had to show remorse. I'd like him to show remorse and that the parole board look into it properly. That's all. I mean, they're only ordinary people doing a job, but I do think when you go to parole, it should show remorse. Clearly, Jake's not showing remorse.
If Jake Fahri offered to speak to you,
No, of course.
would you want to do your
Would I? Well, I always said, I remember in the early days after we lost Jimmy, I used to think I'd love to speak to him. I'd love to know why he was this angry young man. But obviously that never happened. And as the years have gone on, I've often thought, if I had the chance, what would I ask him? But I suppose after what's gone on, I think it's probably best that we don't meet because I'd be worried about what he would say to me.